Blueface, baby. Yeah, I'm every woman's fantasy. Blueface, baby. Mama always told me I was gonna break hearts. I guess her fault, stupid. Don't be mad at me, I wanna see you bust down. Bend that shit over on the desk. Yeah, make that shit clap. She threw it back, so I had to double back on the gang. Smacking high off the drug. I tried to tell myself 2 times enough. Then the nigga relapsed on the dead low. Ain't no running, Tatiana. You gon' take these damn drugs, Tatiana. I beat the pussy every time it's a murder scene. Keep shit player, Tatiana, like you ain't never even heard of me. But damn.
Who the hell is that guy? Smokes before every podcast. Is he serious? Is he serious? Come on, guys at Facebook. Let's rally against this. Who the hell are these guys? We are Unfiltered Reptiles Podcast, you stupid mother... You know what I'm saying? Kush, tell him, Kush. Tell him. What's good?
You're bringing the energy tonight, man. You're making up for my lack of it, so I appreciate that.
Oh, stop it. You'll get going here in a minute. I have your Kush meter right here to the right, eyeing it. We're good. Kushometer, man. What's going on? How are you doing, Kush?
Oh, normal. Got a lot going on. Nothing's new. Everything's new. It's just, it's
that RepTech life.
Exactly.
It's nonstop, baby. Nonstop.
Reptiles. Speaking of rats.
That number one, baby. That number one when it comes to professional packaging, the freshest and best is delivered to your doorstep. The number one rodent company in the United States by far, I feel like, and so do many others. Cold-Blooded Cafe, www.coldbloodedcafe.com. Day one, mouse pinks all the way to the mammoth rats delivered to your doorstep. $30 flat rate shipping. Shout out to the Cold-Blooded Cafe team. You guys are the best. And a shout out to John and Alex over at Sim Containers. You guys are awesome. New design of Sim Containers coming out. So make sure if you're able to cop yourself a Sim container, right now is the time to do it. Production's out, and I'm not too sure when production will go back up after these are already sold out, and I don't want to hear nobody complaining. I'm telling you, buddy. I'm telling you guys, get yourself a Sim container, man. So shout out to Sim Container. Shout out to Steven and Ashley over at Focus Cube Habitats. Big things popping off over there in Texas. You definitely want to go check it out. If you guys are really looking for affordable, durable, PVC built enclosures, easy to move, this is it. So shout out to Stephen Ashley for doing big things. Am I missing anyone? No. All right, cool. Shout out to everyone who's tuning in. If this is your first time tapping into Unfiltered Reptiles Podcast, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. That way you're on top of every single freaking Unfiltered Reptiles podcast that we drop. And you'll always, just be here and never miss cool stuff because this is the coolest reptile. Oh my! Hey, we have early birds. Can we say the early birds? What's going on, early birds? Mindy, we got the homegirl Mindy. What's going on, Mindy? I hope you're doing good. And then we have Europe in the house. What's cracking, Peter? Drop a comment. Let me know where in Europe you're repping. Is it Norway? Is it Russia? Let me know where you're from, Peter. I appreciate you, man. What's up, big homie Mike, 1776 Exotics. Got the other homie Tucker in the building. What is good, Tucker? And let's see. And then the homie Jay Hendo up in the building. Are you at work right now watching this while you're working at Best Buy? That's pretty hard. That's a first. That's a first. All right, you guys are here, man. I appreciate. Oh wait, the homie D's nuts in the house. What's going on, man? Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Follow the homie D's Balls and Exotics. What's going on though, Kush? I mean, here we are, just us, little roundabout, you know.
2 weeks in a row. Yeah, we can't find anyone to come on the show anymore, can we?
Is that what it is?
No, it's not what it is.
Okay, I was about to say, because I mean, I think we could bring heat.
Yeah, we have plenty of guys lined up.
Last time I checked, we bring heat just with ourselves, and you know, with Des, you know, we don't, you know, because we got, you know, listen, us as keepers go through experiences every single day. You, my friend, who've been doing it for a lot longer than I have, experiences every day, and you're still learning new shit every day, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Every day I go on, the more I realize I don't know shit, which is great. So
it's great. I love it.
Mm-hmm. If you think you don't know shit, well, you should probably quit, because holy fuck, your head's up your ass. So cushometer at 10.
8, but you're almost there. Yeah, but with all due respect, seriously, the cocky ones aren't really the ones who are the ones that you see around down the long run from what I see. That's why you just always, you know, you let the animals be cocky. You know what I mean? You don't need to be the one bragging. You know what I mean? But hold on one second.
Like, look at the thumbnail, you know.
Right. So the thumbnail, right? Oh man, beautiful production. Ed Marino, one of the basins that you keep currently, right?
Yes, sir.
And how's it going with this?
Pretty great. It just had its second shed with us, like mid to late last week. And it's eating well and growing and just fucking perfect. So it's what you get when you buy from Ed Marino.
Right. But what I'm going to get with this right now, Kush, is even by getting such an established animal from Ed Marino, by not having the proper setup, the most simple, straightforward thing for such a beautiful animal, you could fuck that animal up, can't you?
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, let's kind of talk more about that, you know, because you got so many people, you know, with money or with money saved, whatever, but they're like, I want to get a basin. I want to get an emerald. Any snake in general, but let's just go ahead and just keep it around arboreals right now. Let's just keep it around, you know, let's just say emeralds. Let's keep it around basins or whatever, right? But what is one of the biggest problems people go when it comes to getting an enclosure for an emerald? That you feel like what are some basic, like, not some, just some common fuck ups you feel like that you're always seeing?
Yeah. So, you know, perfect example, when Dennis McNamara was on the podcast, he had explained his husbandry for his emeralds. And that when, you know, they produce them at the zoo and all that, hydration was like the most important thing. Hydration, humidity. And so for us here, you know, this room, yeah, we got the sensor push going. This room sticks at like 50 to 70% humidity all the time.
Okay.
So with a big enough water bowl that it has access to, the snake's gonna thrive in here. But like, let's say, for instance, you're in an apartment or just a normal house that doesn't necessarily have like a reptile specific room. You could be putting that animal potentially in a situation where it could severely dehydrate. I think that's probably the biggest issue with emeralds is the hydration. You know, whether get an emerald at a show, put it in an Exoterra in your living room with the basking light, that's going to dry out the enclosure. You know, it's probably the worst thing you could do. If you live in Miami or San Diego or somewhere that's always very humid, well, maybe it can work. You just need to understand your environment. One thing that I kind of learned early on getting into like the dart frog world, a lot of times with dart frog people with their vivariums, they'll plant that vivarium and they'll let it run for like a month, 2 months, 3 months before they even introduce animals into there, so that the plants start to grow, so that they understand how it's, you know, how it's kind of cycling and all that, to make sure that the animals are going to, you know, go into an ideal condition. I'm not always, you know, perfect on that either. You know, I'll kind of, you know, go to a show, get an animal, wasn't thinking that I was going to get, and set it up last minute. Not ideal, but I think, you know, there's a bunch of things that as a community, everybody can work towards. And then on an individual basis too. So, you know, like with an emerald, if you're getting your first emerald, maybe get that cage a month beforehand and monitor the temperature, monitor the humidity, and understand, okay, well, this is in a drier area. Maybe I need to spray this enclosure every single day. Or maybe, hey, it's just not going to work right here. There's a draft right here. There's a whatever. I'm going to move it into the basement. Hey, it worked. You know, that enclosure seems to be doing a lot better down there now. You know, people probably cook their emeralds too, you know, giving them hot spots that are 88, 90 degrees. Probably isn't totally necessary.
I'm going to stop you real quick, Kush, just like, you know, pause, because all these like cooking your emeralds, you know, lack of humidity, lack of ventilation, a lot of this stuff that happens to happen for the most part is due to the fact that it's in an inappropriate setup, like maybe a big ass fucking like, you know, Envision cage or something like that, based off when I'm like something too big for it, or just maybe something that's just not properly set up. Like, so,
you know, I mean, probably maybe a little bit of both. You know,
right.
If you're dealing with captive bred emeralds, I think you're playing a different ball game. If you know, captive bred emerald versus wild caught emeralds, and we're just talking very specifically emeralds right now. These are theories that can probably be applied to just about any reptile.
Exactly. Yeah. Good point.
You know, it's like dealing with a green tree python that has nidovirus versus one that doesn't. You know, it's just a totally different animal.
Right.
With a captive bred emerald, you know, like the one from Ed Marino that we got, set it up right, and it just thrives. Perfect. You don't have to worry about it. But if it was, you know, a wild caught emerald, first of all, you know, whether or not that animal will make it at all is in question. But if you're not keeping it in, you know, in ideal settings and in a low stress area, hydrating it well enough, you know, if you're not overheating it and drying it out, you know, you may run into some pretty serious problems pretty quickly. So.
And it's also because people, like, when somebody first inquires an animal, right, whether it be a neo or an adult, Steven, I think people are so eager just to see this shit set up in their living room, all in like a zoo type setting, where like that's not I mean, like think about what Ed Marino does with his hatchlings for the first 2 years. They're raised up in tubs over water. Okay, yeah. Now explain why he would do that, Steven. I know why, obviously, but I want to hear it from you.
Yeah,
Explain that to the people out there, why not only with basins or emeralds, but also with neonate chondros, like Socrates does it. Well,
think about it. What is the surefire way to ensure highest humidity and most access to water? Put it over water. You know, it's pretty simple. Put enough water in there where the animal's not going to drown, and boom, you're good. And if you think about it too, as far as like the natural history of these animals, they're not born and then going all the way up in the tree. With chondros, with that color change, they're yellow and red as babies to and you see adult green trees on the ground as well. But for the most part, to blend in with the colors that are going to be closer to the ground. And as soon as they go up in that prey size to where they need to eat the food that's near the top of the tree, boom, green, and then they go up. They're still coming down, hunting on the ground. But it has to do with what level of that tree they're living in at any given time. So in that tub setup, that may be more akin to what they're actually living like in the wild versus like a 24-inch cube exoterra. You know, you put them there, you put them on a top perch, they may just freak the fuck out. They're like, this is totally unnatural to me. I'm not at the highest point. That's not, you know, this is not what my brain is programmed to do. I'm programmed to be kind of close to the ground, grabbing onto little twigs and snagging stuff as it goes by me.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, yeah,
I don't really know anybody that raises neonate chondros in larger enclosures.
Well, it's kind of like
court tubs.
And, you know, this is nothing against anybody who asked this, because a lot of people who do have this mind frame, and hello, dude, this was definitely me before I met people like Steven and Sock and all these other people. But like, you know, they just don't know better. They don't know like, oh, I can't just put something like already like in the enclosure. And that's why we're even talking about this, because I'm telling you right now, Steven, anybody who hits me up, it goes like this, right? It goes, hey, do you sell chondros or emeralds? I go, no, I don't. And then they go, do you know who does, or whatever? And they go and they find it, and they find what they're looking for. And then they come back to me and they say, well, oh, I'm going to put it in this. And I, kind of like telling me what they're doing. And of course, if it's, you tell me you're going to put it in a fucking 2x2 and it's a neonate, I'm going to be like, no, you don't want to do that. You know what I mean? You're going to have dehydration problems and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like I said, these people are just excited. They're motivated, and they just don't know. They don't know that there's like little steps you do before you get all that glory. And also what we're going to talk about tonight is just the simple steps you take to ensure longevity with this animal, because it's not about what it looks like to you right now. It's about how it does for you, like making sure it drinks, right?
So, I guess we'll preface this whole thing with saying, if anybody listening or watching is, this, you're a new keeper, and, maybe you got your introduction with ball pythons, you found MJ's podcast, and now you're over here. We're not saying, oh, you're a newbie, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, this is why everybody who's new to species, this is why they suck. No, I mean, like, this is the advice that, we would have liked when we were first starting out. I trust me, I'd probably talk to 5 to 10 people every day asking little, advice, especially with newer things that, I'm getting into, like with venomous snakes. Like
you're not even I'm not even added in that. You didn't even add me for that. So yeah, it's true.
I got people asking questions all the time, and I'm like, hey, this might sound stupid, but I don't know the answer to this. Right. This is kind of like a guide of the natural mistakes that you don't necessarily have to make now that you know this. Right.
And which everyone typically has to go through these typical mistakes, but you don't have to anymore. Like, right. We're stopping that.
And it's not like mistakes won't happen, but
they will.
I think the best teacher in life is learning from others' mistakes. And if we can air out vocally mistakes either we've made or we've heard other people have made, or seen other people make, then all that's going to do is ensure the next group of people coming up in the reptiles have a better access to information, and for the animals themselves too, because that learning curve sometimes comes with loss of animals, which it happens, but anything we can do to minimize that is for the best. So
now when it comes to minimizing, this is another reason why I want to talk about, husbandry. You just taught me how to say that today. Husbandry. So it's husbandry. Fuck, I honestly, guys, I swear to God, and I don't know if it's because of my speech impediment. And by the way, if you make fun of my speech impediment, you're fucked up. But
oh, sorry.
Yes, yeah, whatever, Steven. No, but I couldn't say that word for the fucking sake of me forever. And then basically, Steven, of course, out of all people, Steven helped me spell it out. He's like, say husband. I said husband. He said, say tree. Anyways, so husbandry. I love it. I do. Honestly, when I like, okay, let's see, husbandry, and then I stole coloration from Steven. There was a couple of cool words I stole from Steven that I just started saying in my stories, and I felt so much smarter. Like I'm dead serious. Thanks, Steven. My boy. But no, okay. Simple risk. Okay, but eliminating risk, especially for smaller neonates or even a smaller animal, period, right? Because like when you keep stuff in a wrong, any animal, right? But when you keep something, a young animal, I guess any animal in the wrong environment, especially in the beginning, the chances of that thing going into stress and not eating is very high, right? So I'm gonna say right now, man, like putting it over water is definitely a safe bet, and we're talking about younger, like arboreal animals, right? Neonates or emeralds, right? But other than the water, I feel like paper towels. I mean, honestly, I'm not a fan of putting cocoa chips or anything for a neonate. I'm just not.
Well, then I'm gonna break the internet with how sometimes I'll do the neonates in here.
Tell me, yeah, let's do it.
Cocoa chip with water bowl.
Okay. And no issue with that.
Absolutely not. None whatsoever. Okay. So for me, I don't like paper for a very specific reason. which is for our situation. And that reason is we have so many animals and so much going on here. I can't look at every snake every day. If a snake takes a nasty shit, or if it dumps its water, or if it takes a nasty shit and then proceeds to dump its water, I don't like not catching that for a day or two. If it dumps it into bedding, it's going to absorb, and the snake isn't getting an RI about it. You know, they're not going to start developing skin issues. So for me here, that the bedding, it just ensures that on the off chance I don't see an animal for a day or two or over the weekend, you know, a preventable issue doesn't come up in that time. It's so humid in this room that with almost everything, can put it on we use like Reptile chip, put it on that. Don't ever spray it. Perfect sheds, perfect hydration, no issues. In our other rooms though, that don't have a bunch of crocodiles in it, that's not the case in the winter when when the heaters are running. We got to be spraying heavily, have a humidifier running and whatnot. But that's just us, understanding our rooms. If a snake's in shed, we might just preemptively soak it during those months of the year, and then during the warm months when the AC's on or nothing, no issue whatsoever. But that's just our climate. It's a little bit more humid here than in some other areas during the summer. So, and it's not like we don't have stuck sheds. We don't have hydration issues every now and then, but again, those are the mistakes that you make to end up, understanding your room, understanding how you have to do things. So it's just,
it's honestly, man, even from a baby, because I was gonna say, like, I've kept babies not over substrate, because I just never trusted it personally myself, because I've seen babies like miss prey and like snag and fucking get the paper towel and wrap the paper towel, like annoying shit like that. And so I'm always like, well, dude, they could easily fucking swallow a piece of cocoa chip if that was the case, or something. This is what I'm telling myself, right? So I always felt like going over water was your safest bet for it to shed properly, shit properly, drink properly, all that good stuff. And then by raising it that way and having sure it does all that, then basically by you putting it in the next enclosure, it being bigger, you're literally like more likely in fucking really good shape. And this is just based off my own experience.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say on the whole, them swallowing whatever, these animals do live in the wild where there is dirt and sticks and leaves, where sand exists. Sand does exist outside of stores. Reptiles, not every rodent comes perfectly thawed on a plate to them out in the wild. I have seen infinitely more chondros that have swallowed a paper towel than have died from impaction swallowing bedding.
Crazy.
I don't think if anyone's out there who has an instance where this happened, please tell me. I don't think I have ever heard of a python die from ingesting substrate other than paper towel.
Well, there's been like people who've taken and this is, I don't know about people with an S, but I've seen somebody taking their emerald in and had their stomach open up and it was full of fucking cocoa chips, like full of substrate. Like I'm talking about like the stringy stuff, like, what I mean? Like all that. Yeah. The fiber. And then also with Corey from Toothless also did like an example of showing like an x-ray of an animal, a monitor that died that was fucking full of it, because he's anti-cocoa chip for his monitors as well. I do like a blend. Andrew told me to do like a little blend. I do like 25% cocoa chip and then like the rest like dirt and sand. Which, like I think the cocoa chip, like I think it goes down to what you said. The demographic, where you're at, really comes to play on what cocoa chip could do for you.
And
go ahead.
Sorry, keep going.
No, I'm saying me personally, where I live, and because my day to day, I check my animals every day, and and I like paper. But also paper does, for instance, reek. Like as soon as it shits or pisses the whole room, and it's something you do have to clean right away. But like I said, I check my shit every day. But if you're somebody who has to check their animal every other day, then yeah, having that substrate will definitely be something that will buy you a little time, but then it's also something you don't want to just fucking ignore either, right, Steven? You can't just say, "Oh, I have bedding. I don't need to check it for another month or something," right?
Well, okay, yeah. I mean, there's a big gap between, can't check it every day and neglect.
Well, because people by accident, people do seem to stretch it. Maybe they don't spot clean good enough, because I'll tell you what, also, it is also hard sometimes to see that these little fuckers shit underneath the cocoa chip. Okay. Like you literally have to shake it around to see if there's that stuck shit. You know what I mean? Sometimes it
can look like, a little turd nugget can look like a piece of cocoa brick too. So
yeah. Or like, I'm talking when it was a wet one and it's just dried. Yeah. It's just like it's dried. You know what I mean? And those you don't want to turn into anything else. I'm telling you, you got to be on top of that stuff. And that's why I don't think cocoa chip ever worked for me personally. And you know what I mean? But it all comes down demographic.
There's one like perfect bedding. A friend of mine asked me the other day, he's like, "Hey, I see you using the cocoa chip. Like, why do you prefer that over cypress?" Honestly, like cypress, like I don't like getting splinters in my hands, and that's about it. Like I feel like it gets dirty faster. And
what about aspen?
Aspen, I just don't like it. It's too dry. I don't like how it smells. And to me, that's a colubrid bedding. But even with colubrids, I prefer the coconut chip, because the thing with that is like you can just not make it wet. Like you can just dry it out and then it's a dry bedding. So and this honestly, the reason we use this over a different product is we just have good access to it. That's really about it. So
okay. Yeah.
And I like it enough with the monitors. I always like to do a mix of a few different types of substrate. And then there's always freak accidents too. Like, well, this died from this and this died from that. Like, yeah, I'm not denying that it could happen for sure. The number of animals that are kept that way versus the number of animals that die that way, I don't think that evidence is compelling enough at all to not use any bedding other than maybe like cedar chips, which are like toxic to the animals. So
do you feel like people by accident, not on purpose, tend to throw their fears of their self-experience onto others? Like, for instance, like there's people who swear by never spraying because spraying will do this, and that. When I've been spraying this entire time, and others been spraying this entire time.
Think about it, that it comes from a good place, because if a chondro breeder was spraying their animals and they were dying, they're like, well, fuck, this is really bad. I don't want anyone else to deal with this. Well, it wasn't from the spraying, it was from the nidovirus. We didn't know that until it was discovered in 2016. So before that, how the fuck are you going to know? The virus hadn't been identified.
There's still people who say it's the spraying. Like, I'm saying like the people who are anti-spraying.
People are saying that because that's what's worked for them forever. But
even though they have to soak an animal every time?
Huh?
Even though they have to soak an animal during every shed? That's annoying, right? Like who wants to sit there and take shit off a fucking snake every time it sheds?
I mean, then if that's the case, then you're probably not doing something right. And it's not to say that you have a stuck shed, you're a bad keeper. But if you have chronic stuck shed, then you probably have a humidity or hydration issue. Like this is what it is, and that's something you can correct in almost any situation.
And the reason why I stand tough with this is because I was told even if you spray, you still get stuck sheds, and I'm like, what? Like, I mean, it's definitely doable. You could, even though you spray, you could still get stuck sheds. They happen, but Steven, on everything I love, I rarely get stuck sheds, bro. Like, rarely get any stuck sheds.
You're in a great climate. You're not in Arizona.
But if I didn't spray, I would get stuck sheds, bro. If I didn't spray, I would. I have problem. Okay, there's times where I fucking don't know a chondro's in shed, and I forget to spray it, and then that's a problem. Mm-hmm. So if I don't spray, I get stuck sheds.
Then now you know how your room and your animals react to each other, which is good. You figured it out, and now you know that your balance is spray once a week, spray twice a week, spray every day when it's in shed. That's like when I was in Chicago, that's what I would do. I would just spray everything once a week.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have a whole lot of stuck sheds. And if I did, I soaked it and I got the shed off. And Next time it went through a shed, I paid closer attention and sprayed it more the day or two before it was shedding, and I had a full shed, and then I'm good. So I think a lot of people overcomplicate some of these things and then make generalizations based off of something that works for one person. Hey, this guy who's really successful, he doesn't spray. It's like, okay, well, he is one person. And if that works for him, then it's great. That doesn't necessarily mean that everybody who sprays their chondros, their whatever, is doing it wrong. It doesn't mean that. It means it works for him, but it doesn't mean that it'll work for everybody else. And doesn't mean it's inherently right because it works for one person.
But having to remove stuck shed every shed cycle is not.
Yeah, no, that's not good. Yeah, that's
right.
Probably
as long as I hear that from you, because I pretty much knew that, but like I said, I've literally had conversations with people, and I'm not here to say I'm just
indication that husbandry's off. That doesn't mean the animal's going to die. It's not like, oh my God, you're abusing your snake. It had a stuck shed. It's like, no, something's just off and it needs to be tweaked, and once you tweak it, it'll have a good shed, and then you're good. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, if you have a snake who's dying of dehydration, that's kind of a big deal. But at least in my experience, I'm no veterinarian. I don't know the, microchemistry of this stuff. But like, I've had stuck sheds. I don't know if I've ever had a snake die of dehydration. So.
And let me ask you this: do you soak every male or every female before, like while it's in shed? Do you soak every chondro? Because I've never done that before.
I don't think I've ever actually soaked an animal pre-shed.
The only time I've had to do it,
that it was going to have a bad shed before I soak it. I just don't have that kind of time. Like, does it hurt to soak every animal? Probably not, but I just rather would spend my time doing probably 100 other things than soaking every animal before it goes in the shed. Like, it's just not necessary.
You definitely wouldn't have time for this podcast if that's what you did.
No, man, I would be soaking tubs and moving snakes around, and God, it'd be a nightmare.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody. I was talking to my boy Juan earlier because me and my boy Juan just got some sick ass neonates. Oh, so does Kush. Some from Socrates. We got some beautiful Aru SCs. 21. I got 2107. He got 2010. And you got what? What numbers did you get?
03 and 11.
03 and 11. Tight 03 and 11. And then I got SK 2011 coming my way soon too. That's gonna be pretty sick. I can't wait. Once we find out it's a male.
Andrew, get over here, man. You guys sex all these scrubs with me.
Dude, okay, hold on.
Was he here earlier? Hey, Andrew, stop fucking wasting your time, man. Get over here. We need to sex some scrubs. You have skin in the game, too. You need a male.
What I'm saying. Andrew wants dibs on all these fucking United States Captain Born and Bred by Stevens, but yet he doesn't want to take the drive over to RepTech to help sex all these fucking scrubs. Like, bro.
The flight, man. You got your retic money. Get your ass over here.
Dummy retic, dude. I don't even want to say how much dummy retic money he has, but his Tacoma looks really fresh. That's all I got to say. No, shout out to dummy Andrew. But okay, let's kind of dig deep a little bit more because I feel like popularity with the chondros or even emeralds, either way. But we'll talk. We'll just keep the topic around those two because this is kind of what I'm trying to address these because this is what, in my eyes, with my following, I'm seeing that these are getting more popular and popular. Okay, so with people breeding them a lot more this year, they're going to become available. These snakes will become available. People will be getting their hands on babies, but we want to set you up for success right out the gate. And if it's not if you're not hearing it from me or Steven, more importantly, you should be hearing it from the person that's breeding it. I mean, fuck, how good was Socrates with information when he gave us his neonates? Like, motherfucker, like FaceTimed us and like he does everything that he possibly can to make sure that we're in a good place, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's those are the kind of people who are going to drive this hobby forward.
Right.
And the more of that, the better. Really, that's the truth of the situation.
Now let's talk about like the grow up stage, right? So let's just say you are keeping, a baby, like a neonate, right? And, it's doing well with you and you're ready to upgrade its enclosure. How do you base that with yourself? Like, how do you base your grow ups, your neonates and whatnot?
So, obviously it depends on the species.
Emeralds and chondros. Emeralds and chondros.
Emeralds and chondros, well, barring them not being the best feeders, really whenever I feel like they're one, too big for their current enclosure, or two, I want to put them in something bigger, then I move them up into something bigger. That was very general and probably not super insightful, but that's kind of it. Like, for me, if an animal's eating and growing in its enclosure, it's at least comfortable where it is in its situation. And at some point, it'll outgrow that enclosure if it's a young one. And then you put it in something bigger. And how much bigger you go, it's really, it's subjective. Like with our male northern that we got from Ryan Willison, he was in a smaller, shout out. He was in a smaller tub setup for a while. And he was outgrowing it. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I want to put him in a 2x2 cage. It's a huge step up from where he was size-wise. That there were, most people probably would have taken an intermediate step, or not. But we'd had that animal here for like 3 years. I knew it was doing well. It was eating consistently, and I felt comfortable to move it into a big display cage, and it transitioned perfectly. What? Oh my God. MJ on mute.
I gotta answer this call, bro. It's Socrates. How can I not answer this?
Yeah,
it's
fair enough. Welcome to Unfiltered. You're finally on.
Yeah, Socrates is on Unfiltered. Damn. What's good? What's cracking?
Nah, I just finished work. Just call me when you're done.
All right, I'll hit you up late. All right. I can't not miss. It's like if you were to call me, I was going to answer. You know what I mean?
That was a good cameo.
But yeah, continue, please.
Like for instance, if that snake was in that enclosure, I thought maybe it was too big, but it was having bad sheds, or it wasn't eating consistently, or I thought I was a little bit underweight, then I may be hesitant to put it in the really big enclosure where it's going to be subject to more stress, just by virtue of it being more visible. So I think another instance of read your animal. We said, read your animal. What the fuck does that mean? Sometimes reading your animal means trying something, it not working, and then maybe you revert back to how it used to be. What if I took that emerald out of its 15-quart tub, put it into a 2x2, and then it stopped eating and then had a fully stuck shed? I'm like, well, maybe I should move it back into the tub. I put it back into the tub, and it has its next meal and then it sheds. I'm like, all right, well, probably wasn't ready for that upgrade yet. Maybe I put it in a slightly bigger tub, keep the conditions fairly similar, and try to get it to a state where it's healthier before putting it up there. Well, one thing that happened this week, and it's going to be a totally different species, but I think it was kind of a cool example of, how long it actually may take something like, some of these animals to truly adjust to a new environment. It actually happened with two different animals. It was the same species, two of our Mexican indigo snakes that we've had. We've had one of them since August and one of them since October or November, I believe. So a little while. They've already cleared quarantine. They're in the main reptile room here. And this week was the first time they'd actually taken a meal off tongs. Damn. Months and months and months after the fact, I'd always just left it in there. I'm like, hey, they're gonna eat it overnight, and they always do. When a snake goes from taking, just drop the prey item to actually grabbing it off tongs, that tells me that animal is confident enough that it knows I'm here and will eat like that anyway. Whereas before, if it eats it overnight, it's obviously in a more calm setting. I'm not running around in here working. There's less noise. It's dark, and then it feels comfortable to eat. Where I open that tub, put the mouse in it grabs it right away. That's a good sign to me that that animal's starting to do better. So,
all right. real quick. We're 40 minutes deep. We haven't even gotten to fucking 20% Kush, but I will end this shit at an hour if we're not at 40 likes at the 1 hour mark. We got 20 minutes. We got 20 minutes to get to 40 likes, or this shit's going straight to Patreon page, and I'm not fucking around. So if you are now tuning in and you just simply can't hit the like, I'll add dislikes too. You can hit the dislike, but that shit better add up. So 20 minutes, guys. Anyways, let's talk. Let's get to the. Go ahead. Yeah, my bad. I'm tired of this shit. Let's go.
I don't know. I lost my train of thought. We don't have that. We have so few likes.
No, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, we already know what's good. Okay, now, in the importance of having an animal in a less stress environment is also a key thing why you don't want to put it in such a big open enclosure, right? Like that's another reason why animals don't tend to want to drink. They don't tend to want to fucking do much, but just, kind of stress out because like we were saying earlier, right? I had a buddy of mine who had it in a, let's just say a shoebox type plastic tub. He ordered a focus cube habitat enclosure, like an 18 by whatever. And he put a huge water dish in there and he put it in there. And then next thing you know, it didn't ship for a month. I was really bad stuck shed. Yeah. So at the end of the day, even though the water was there, everything was there, it did not like the environment it was in. Something was stressing it the fuck out. But he noticed that. He paid attention to that. He let me know, like, yo, what the fuck's wrong with my animal? And I told him, I was like, revert. Get your ass back to over water. And sure enough, bro, like clockwork, that next morning, all the shed came off just like that. So, it's better just to keep it like that until it gets to the stage where it can handle a big enclosure. You know what I mean? It's this. People need to understand, like, it's the long game with these animals, like especially a fucking chondro or emerald. Like the transition it goes through, the maturity it goes through is so slow. Yeah, and you just don't want to you don't want to mess with that. Now that being said, Steven, once you do have that down, how easy and well established does this animal get once you have everything that it properly needs?
I mean, once they're going, they're going. For the most part, barring health issues, with a green tree or an emerald that's healthy, like you have a really, really solid animal. If it is, if it's eating, if it's defecating, if it's shedding, like you're on the right track. And then it just, it's just that kind of that patience after that of this is my vision. I want to have this enclosure that is beautiful, displays the animal well with good lighting. You'll get there. Just, don't rush the process. Move the animal up incrementally. And if you're really confident with its health and you think you're in a place where you can put it in that large enclosure, give it a shot. It might not work, but it might work. It might work too. And you might have a really beautiful display with an incredible snake in it that you can just sit there and enjoy. So
now, let me ask you this, Stephen. And I need your honest opinion, and I just shoot me straight with it because I want to know. I really don't know what you're going to say right now, to be honest. Pretty high too, but all right. You have an available clutch of chondros, emeralds, whatever, right? Let's just say you have, like, theoretically, right?
Fictitiously, yes.
Even though the future is like that, but I'm just saying. I inquire to you and I'm saying, hey man, I want to get one. I got the money, blah, blah, blah. Right. But I'm going to put this shit in a fucking goddamn display case in my living room. Like, I'm kind of letting you know that's my game plan with that.
Yeah.
What's your move going to be with that? Like, and honestly, what's going on in your head when somebody already has that kind of demeanor? Skepticism obviously takes over where you're like, this may not be the best person to buy this animal. But it may be somebody also who is new and wants to learn this, is not informed yet. So, if I'm talking to them and they're like dead set on this idea, then it's, that's going to be one that I'm like, okay, next. But, if it's somebody who has this, this idea beforehand of this is what I want. This is why I want a green tree python.
And I'm like, okay, great. This is just what you're gonna have to do up until this point. They're willing to listen. I may still sell an animal to them. It really just depends on their mindset. If it's somebody who DMs me, I look at their page and they already keep green trees and emeralds. They look like they know what they're doing. I'm like, okay, this is probably somebody who is aware of how to keep these animals, and people like that I'm definitely much more inclined to work with. Does not mean I'm not inclined to work with new people as well. It's just the right kind of new person. The new person who has a want to learn, may have some preconceived notions, but is willing to change them when the right is presented.
Yeah. Because I'll be honest too, man. How easy is it to acquire a neonate from, let's just say, Patrick Holmes? Okay, like let's just say you don't know Patrick and you got money. How easy is it to get a neonate from Patrick?
I'm probably not super easy.
Not at all, right? Yeah. Okay, and he's just one of many breeders who aren't that. It's not easy to inquire. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then also, that being said, even if you do somehow build a relationship, and it's easy to, like, dude, I've made I made all my relationships with these chondro breeders off Instagram and social media, but I respect everything they have to say, and that's where I'm getting at. But yeah, at the end of the day, dude, listen, all the information's out there for you. You just got to be accepted. Like, you got to be receptive to it.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Like, you need to get over your zoo. Damn, this is going to be fucked up. Get over your zoo dreams, which is like, don't get over your zoo dreams. But I'm just saying, like, don't worry about the display and like fucking the goddamn aquarium with, pufferfish and shit right now. Like, you're going to get there to all that. You just got to ensure that these things are established. It's just about getting them acclimated.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? Patience is everything with these animals. That's reptiles for you. They're slow. They're whether you talk about their metabolism, how how they physically move. They're a long game. That's why everybody, how we were kind of discussing last week, there's always the new money guy who, looks at it from a business standpoint, is like, oh yeah, it'd be great. Let me dump $200,000 into this and boom, off to the race. It's like, okay, well, that person doesn't have patience or the love for the animals. That's a really bad combination. No patience and no love for the animals. Like, that's going to get you nowhere. Assuming that anyone we're talking to, he already has a love of the animals. Without that patience, you're a ticking time bomb for burning out. So, we have animals here that take, like crocodilians, they take 7 to 10 years to grow up to breeding size. Like, that's a commitment. If that's something you want to actually breed, you're not buying that animal because on a whim you're like, yeah, let's breed crocodiles. You're buying that animal. Hopefully you're not buying the animal because you're an idiot and think you can keep it in your bathtub. But if you're buying it with the intention of doing right by the animals, you know how long-term of a project that is. And, that's not your primary focus. It's like, hey, it'd be nice to make my money back at some point. But I'm doing this because I love the animals and I couldn't see myself doing anything else,
Right. Yeah. But dude, man, people are just idiots. Like, we're dumb. Like, we're naturally stupid, not by on purpose, but like, think about it. Without the social media platform, no. Take Steven, because Steven thinks he's, not that he thinks he is a smart motherfucker, but I'm just saying, in generality, not Steven Kush world, but generality, there's some stupid motherfuckers out there. And I'm counting myself in that generalities because I've done some stupid, just airhead stuff with animals not knowing. But I'm forever in grateful debt to all the OGs out there, all the relationships, all the podcasts out there that's giving me information for me to remember not to fuck up again. Because everyone's going to fuck up. Like, bro, everyone is going to fuck up. I'll tell you that. It's just about not repeating. It's about passing down the information on how you fucked up and just own it. Who cares? Just own it. I do all the time. I always talk about when I lose animals and fucking do stupid shit.
Yeah.
But you own it and you just fucking, you share your experience and you do your best not to repeat it. And, sometimes you can't even help it. Mistakes will be repeating. Mistakes are fucking a part of this goddamn industry, a part of what we do. It's going to happen. we got to eliminate what we can eliminate, right?
Absolutely.
Does that make
That's
sense?
kind of what we're here doing, is
Okay, so
the most basic mistakes and telling you how not to make them.
I think we pretty much covered the substrate, husbandry, facts of things. At the end of the day, guys, to wrap up the husbandry topic, I do want to say, just trust the person you're buying the animal from, and honestly, hold them to helping you out. They better fucking help you out. God damn, they better help you out.
A great thing to do if you're a new buyer, message somebody. You're on social media, you're following the Chondro world on Facebook. Even to send somebody a message who you see as like a leading member of that group and be like, hey, I'm considering buying an animal from this person. Are they reputable?
Yeah. That's it. Exactly. Ask around, dude. Word of mouth is very huge out here, man. And
especially in reptiles.
Come ask me. Come ask Steven. Cause dude, honestly, people for the most part won't badmouth anyone. Like people fucking really, I don't know, man. I don't want to say you could trust anyone, but for the most part, bro, people build the kind of name that people talk about. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like for the most part. And if you do have any questions, you could ask about it. But
let's say with chondros or emeralds, like the arboreal world, if you ask 5 people, hey, what do you think about this guy? And you get 5 good reviews, you're probably good. You're probably good.
Yeah. So
personal vendettas are out there, but for the most part, it's going to come out who's on the up and up and who's not. Talk for a second.
Go ahead. Steven Kush. Free Carl. I'm trying to get fucking Carl out of fucking Brazil prison, wherever he's at, man. We got to get this fool out, bro. I mean, don't get me wrong. Kush, Professor Kush spits the facts, but damn well Carl. Conservation Carl he would like almost tear up when he would get upset. So hope he's doing all right. If anyone has tabs on Carl, let him know. Unfiltered Reptiles Podcast misses him. Please hashtag free Carl, free my man Carl. Hope you guys are having a great time. Listen, real quick before we, I know I got a couple different topics we're going to talk about, which we're just wrapping up: substrate, husbandry, and whatnot. But like, I'm dead serious. I would not be where I was at if it wasn't for me holding the people I inquired my animals from accountable of helping me out when it comes to me having questions. But luckily, I've never had a problem getting help from people I bought animals from. I've been lucky with that. But that's why I keep my fucking circle tight. I don't just buy from anyone, okay? I really just buy from like this many people. That's it. But Kush, this really, what we're talking about here is being smart, right? Especially being a new breeder, getting into new species. What's the one thing people go research for once they find out, $1,500 for that little snake? Ooh, $2,000 for that snake? Ooh, what other options are there? Let's go to king snake. Wow. $350. All right. Oh man, $200 shipped. All right. Okay. You know where I'm getting at, Steven? Is it ruining the hobby? Is importing fucking up the hobby? And this is coming from people who fuck with importers. I mean, I'm in a room full of fucking half of this shit's imported. I'm not gonna lie, but it also gave me a freezer full of regret. I don't have regret actually. That freezer is what it is. But what's going on with importing, Steven? Talk to me about it. I mean, what are your thoughts on animals coming in, all that stuff, and people starting with imports, all that stuff? I'm going to use the bathroom talk.
Imports, they're a double-edged sword because they're great for a few different reasons. One, the amount of a reptile, the number of species that are represented in captivity compared to the number of species that are bred in captivity, it's a very, very different number. Where obviously there are many more species that we have or have access to or are in collections that people are actually breeding. And the main reason for that is that those species that are not bred, they're imported in significant number, enough to where anyone can say, oh, I don't want to worry about breeding those. They'll come in October. They'll whatever season's coming up. They'll be all over the place. And we see, time and time again. Well, yeah, sure, it's plentiful until that country shuts its borders down, or it's plentiful until the U.S. government makes some law about whatever the fuck, or something goes CITES 1 or something is added onto the ESA. Things that we have no control over as the reptile world. What we do have control over is what we keep, what we breed, and then what we do with these imported animals. They're great for another reason, that they bring in new bloodlines. With species like, just to name a few off the top of my head, there's probably a ton of them. Eastern indigo snakes, rough scale pythons, damn near anything Australian. They're great. Australia is a great example. They don't export anything anywhere. Australia, their borders are very closed on a number of different things. Animals are one of them. So the gene pool that we have in the United States is super limited. So they get inbred because you have to, and they get progressively less healthy. They, more prone to whatever the fuck. They're just not the animals that they would be in the wild. So at this point with Australian stuff, a wild caught rough scale python would probably be 10 times more valuable than the captive bred rough scale python, because that genetic is so important to the health of the captive population, potentially. That anybody who's real serious about breeding rough scale pythons would pay a premium, or carpet pythons, blue tongue skinks, Aki monitors, King's monitors, any of the Odatria from Australia. That would be a premium, or a wild caught, like I said earlier, a wild caught Eastern indigo snake. Right. Especially in a genus like Drymarchon that is even more prone to inbreeding depression than almost any other reptile. So my point there is these imported animals are valuable because, or they would attain value because they are the rarity. The captive bred ones, they're what's common. I feel like us as a community, we would be much better off if the if the imported Savannah monitor was the commodity over the captive bred Savannah monitor. And I think, economically it would actually work out too, because there's a lot of businesses that, their model is buy from one of the 3 or 4 main reptile importers that bring animals actually in from overseas. A lot of people claim that they're importers, but they don't actually import. They just buy from people that import. That's the business model of that big importer. Animals in, animals out. It's a numbers game for them, which you can debate the morality of that numbers game all day. That's kind of not what I'm here to do right now. We could have a discussion on that. But if the captive bred animals were that plentiful, then a business like that could be in the business of reselling captive bred whatevers, and they would innately demand a higher price because they are captive bred. So then there's just a higher ticket value on most things, which raises the industry as a whole up a little bit higher, just because the cost of entry is higher, which that means your return on your investment from a business standpoint will then also be higher because your commodity is now more expensive. So it really evens itself out. And then that imported animal is even more valuable because that's the genetic you need to keep your lines healthy. Instead of, oh, that's just the one I can rely on in case this one dies. Getting away from that mindset to the imports are like the key to longevity, not the imports are the key to whatever, this thing looks sick, I'll just keep it until it dies and then buy a new one. They're cheap anyway. Because I think about it, like, you know, if somebody can't afford to purchase an animal for $200, do you think they can really afford to properly take care of that animal? And that's not like, you know, it's not necessarily a judgment on somebody like that, but it's in that position, maybe like, I need to maybe get my life in a place where I can take care of myself first before I can take care of animals.
That's why you should really think twice too before you like try to bargain a price from a seller, because like there's in the seller's mind, the person has a set price because whoever buys that snake is understanding that, you know, it's just giving the message that I could take care of this snake. You know what I mean? Period. Instead of like trying to get a deal or do something that you could afford right then and there, and then like Steven's saying, run, you know, go down the line, boom, you can't afford to take care of it or something stupid.
Yeah. In a comment, I'll respond to this right now. The guy who you're referring to, I'm pretty sure, would be Dan Maliri, who's retired now in California, where he was doing the import thing right, where, you know, he was very he was visible about what he was doing, so it seemed like maybe he was doing a lot, but really, what's up, Des?
What does he?
But compared to somewhere like Strictly Reptiles, he's bringing in a fraction of a percent of the number of animals that they are, for kind of the purpose that I'm outlining. You know, these animals that are not represented in captivity, people follow him for the rare and exclusive, and then, you know, he's developed this client base where he's going to sell them these imported animals that he is selective about bringing over, being pretty confident that that person's intention is to breed those animals and establish a captive gene pool, to not keep relying on these imports. So like someone like that, that's how it really should be done.
I'm sorry, real quick, man. I mean, this is no disrespect to any importer out there, but nobody did it like Dan, bro. Like when it comes to the import shit, like, bro, he was so good and on top of his shit with everything that came and left that house, that his place. And man, it was depressing this weekend at going to the Del Mar show and knowing there was going to be no fucking chondros there. Yeah, no shit. Yeah, because Dan wasn't there. This is the first time I went to a show where Dan wasn't there, and it was fucking, couldn't see Apple, couldn't see the crew. It's sad, bro. Like, damn, I enjoyed going to his table, which we both did. We both fucking would always get shit from Dan's table all the time.
Yeah.
So, but now, you know, he's living the dream out in Thailand. Fucking, you know, and I could tell you right now, he's missed. I could tell you he has a lot of customers that are kicking rocks right now, like figuring out what the fuck we're gonna do when it comes to getting sick shit.
Yeah. Kind of another follow up on that. Dude was in Florida. You're probably thinking of Michael Cole then. And Michael Cole is kind of doing the Dan Maliri thing on a bigger scale, where he actually owns a farm over in Indonesia, where he's, you know, they're either producing or they're getting wild caught stuff and they're bringing them over here. You know, I'm not quite as familiar with his business model as I am with Dan's. But Michael Cole does get really, really high end stuff. You know, all these Boelen's pythons that you see sold as captive bred or captive hat, like they're coming from Michael Cole or they're coming from Bushmaster. Those are the two sources. A lot of the cool Indo stuff you see is coming from Michael Cole or is coming from Bushmaster. So, you know, these are the people that have the connections over there. And this is the thing, we're saying that, like, you know, this is easy. These guys have been in the game before, definitely before I was born, before a lot of you probably even knew captive reptiles were a thing. To where, you know, this was the foundation of the hobby. And, you know, like someone like Michael Cole, very involved with USARK Florida. You know, definitely another good guy in the game. So maybe hopefully that was him for answering your question. But you know, those imported Boelen's pythons, they're kind of like what I'm saying. Like those are so important for these captive bloodlines, and it really is a shame that people are buying them as one-off pets. You know, not like you shouldn't have a Boelen's python as a pet, but when that genetic is so important for their captive population, eliminating it from the gene pool is a real shame. Because the way that I see it, there are probably very few people in this country that are properly equipped to breed Boelen's pythons. And if those animals aren't in their hands, they're kind of wasted. As far as,
what you mean equipped? Go ahead and what do you mean? Like, go ahead and dig a little deeper when you say they're not equipped. Equipped in what way?
I think that most people view a Boelen's python as a python, and I view them more like an Abronia or a Montane rattlesnake.
Right.
These are coming from elevations that you don't see pythons at. Where you may be walking around, it's 50 degrees and raining. Like, you're not finding a ball python or a Burmese python at those temperatures. I think people are killing them with heat, probably killing them with food. And these animals probably go through a much more intense cycle than most people think. I've never kept a Boelen's python, but here we have lots of animals that come from a comparable climate to Boelen's pythons, and I know why those animals die when they're kept improperly. And, looking at their climate versus the climate of like Abronia, right. They're pretty much the same on different sides of the world. So, I think that the amount of people who have reptile setups like that are so few and far between, because these montane animals, they're kind of coming into popularity more recently, where, these people who have them, they've had them forever and they've known how to do it. But that's not how the masses know how to keep reptiles. They think, ambient 75 to 80 degrees, 86 degree hotspot. I think that's a great recipe to kill a Boelen's python. So that's probably how most people who have them as pets are going to keep them. And sometimes do they thrive? Yeah. Maybe sometimes. Would they breed like that? I think, almost absolutely not. So, it's one example. It's a kind of a finite example of an animal right now that's really overhyped. Based on their price tag. I feel personally that we're missing out on actually conserving the species in captive hands, just based on the pet popularity, where people are owning these animals without a true understanding of what the animals actually are and what they've just gotten themselves into, which is a shame. So
I'm gonna smoke.
You're still smoking. So
okay, let me talk about Dan real quick. DM Exotics.
Yeah, go for it.
So I also want to talk about this as well. It involves the hobby as a whole, because he's not happy. I don't know if you've seen or follow his Facebook post, but he doesn't always come out and like share his thoughts on shit. But recently he made a post, obviously saying like the stuff that's like the getting the most attention in the hobby, which is like the YouTube stuff and whatnot. But it kind of like you could tell like he fucking went in and I read it word for word. But obviously we're friends with some of those YouTubers, right? Like, and I'm not gonna say all of them, but like,
yeah.
Where does the line cross with you with that? Like, okay, because obviously look how passionate you are, Kush, about doing what's right for the hobby. And, and you've been like this whole time. So I don't feel like you would be backing somebody up who's deliberately out to fucking ruin us. I don't feel like you'd be wasting your time. But where do you draw the line with that? Like, where are you at with that?
I kind of draw the line once it's pretty clear you're exploiting the animals for your personal gain. Which I feel like one of these guys has been doing this recently. And I'd probably say a version of that to his face if I was talking to him, where they're like, hey, this is how I see it. These people who are doing YouTube, no matter what, I give them a lot of credit because they have more balls than almost all the rest of us, because they're the ones actually doing it. because you put yourself out there, and you're opening yourself up to so much more criticism than the average person would get, because they're not out there. And I think, just because somebody has a YouTube channel or because they're a public figure to some degree, it doesn't mean that they're void of emotion, like they don't care about people disliking them. So I feel for them in that sense. But as soon as the content goes towards look at what the animals can do for me versus look at what I can do for the animals, that's when it kind of crosses the line of, you're negatively affecting what we're doing. But like I said last show, I don't think bitching about that helps at all either. So I think it only hurts more than the actions of these people are actually hurting. So because the people you're bitching to are the people who share your opinion. So it really, it's this never ending circle of reassurance where, nothing ever actually gets accomplished. But would actually accomplish something, like we said before, is do it your damn self. Make a podcast, make a YouTube channel, make an Instagram page, be out there. Show what you think is the positive light that needs to be shined on this community. And either these people will follow, or they'll keep doing what they're doing, and you just try to drown them out slowly but surely, because we don't live in a perfect world and a perfect society. And even though we might seem idealistic, well, it might not fucking happen, exactly how you'd like it to. But you can do things to go in that direction, because at the moment you're not doing anything other than bitching. So
bitching this is not it. Bitching's not it. Bitching's not evolving.
No. And there's a fine line between bitching and proposing new ideas too.
You're speaking up, right?
Yeah, there's a fine line between that. And I think it really comes down to, is your intention positive or negative? If you are going to bash somebody for the sake of bashing, that is the negative. If you are bringing to light something that you see as a potential flaw and then offer the solution, well, then that's a positive, the way I see it. So
now let me ask you this. We were talking earlier in the week, and it was a good idea that you had regarding like keeping documentation on stuff, like making that more of a, like keeping like, your progress and documents on your breeding and stuff should be more of a priority versus like you looking to sell something or whatever, right? Can you talk a little bit more about what you meant by that? Or if I am wrong, but
I think if everybody collectively were to, take the chondro approach of keep records on your animals, keep lineage. This is what I'm going to try to do with the scrub pythons is, create a system to where I can sell somebody an animal, and 10 years later, they hit me up and they're like, "Hey, I have this snake. I just, it came from you. Do you have any other, is there anything else you have? I'd love to pair it up, or whatever." I'm like, "Oh yeah. What's the animal? What's the ID number?" I can trace it back to its parents, and all of its siblings, all of its, nieces and nephews. Like,
right.
I think that does a few things. One, it it helps track lineages, so you're not, you're avoiding inbreeding at all costs, and it also, I think it shows the rest of the community and the world how serious we actually are about this. You can't say that a chondro person is not very serious about what they do. They have this stigma of, they have the stigma of the chondro snob. Well, they're the chondro snob because they're doing it better than you.
God damn. Where's that at right now? Woo! 68.
Where's
Woo.
Peter? You're the 68? Damn.
I went from 30% just with that one sentence. Keep going. Be careful on your next sentence. I don't want to shoot over 100 too quick. Still got 45 minutes.
No. Yeah, and I'm not going to necessarily.
That's a good. That's a good. Honestly, man, but that's honestly case by case. Now there's.
Yeah, sure. It is with everything, but as a community, I find me a community that keeps better records than green tree python people.
No, you're right. Or emerald.
You know, across the board too. There are subsets of other communities that keep really good records. Like recently, you know, I've been getting into these montane rattlesnakes, and the people that are doing that, you know, there's a subset of people who kind of don't really care and probably are more in it for the money. And then there's a subset of people who are literally like scientists who this is their side hobby. Like they're, you know, professionally studying this and writing papers and keeping them and breeding them is just like, yeah, this is the fun part of it. But like, you know, they're tracking them down to like coordinate points. Like gray banded king snakes are the same way. You know how insane the gray banded king snake people are with their locality data. Like right. They won't breed two gray bands that come from like, I don't know, like 30 miles apart from each other. Like, you know, and I give them a lot of credit for that, because they could probably breed a lot more animals and make more money based on volume, but they care about keeping these animals true to their wild form, or at least keeping track of where these things came from. Because with something like green tree pythons or with scrub pythons, you know, we don't really know. Like these people who are collecting these, you know, these rattlesnakes or these gray bands or, you know, Trans-Pecos rat snakes, they're actually going out and collecting them themselves. We don't really have that luxury of going and picking scrub pythons and green tree pythons out of the wild. You know, like, it's going to sound ironic after what I just said. I don't trust a single label on a barneck scrub python if that's a locality type. This.
Damn.
If you have a barneck scrub python, you don't know its locality.
Now, would you say that for the most part with chondros too?
Within the subspecies, yeah. Within the different subspecies.
Like BX and shit. Like I know there's a lot of stuff that.
Can you tell me what's that?
What's
the other island that's just like Biak? I'm drawing a blank. Numford. Can you really tell me a Numford is different than a Biak?
I can.
Okay, and then what's the difference? I'm serious question.
I can show you pictures. Should I show you pictures? I would have to update them.
Like my point being,
it's distinct white dots on its dorsal. Like they're like.
Okay.
I mean, right.
Okay, and I'm more about chondro localities than I do, so I'll take your word on that.
But you're also right, because I've talked to Patrick about this too, and he thinks they're all pretty much the same, but it's kind of like hypo and orange ghost. I feel like when it comes down to, because I've seen some Numfords. I have a handful of Numfords, and they're distinctly different than my BX, who are all different BX from each other. They're just not BX. I don't know. That's just me. You know, I don't know. It's just me. But that's why I want to breed them. I want to see what they do.
Show me a Manokwari scrub. Show me a Jayapura scrub, and give me a convincing argument that they're different.
I can't. That's you, bro. No.
And then for anybody, I just posted today an update on some of the babies that we produced back in July. Some baby barnecks. Within the clutch, every phenotype was represented. Very few actually looked like the parents. It was all over the place. And, somebody put a comment like, that Wamina, Jayapura, Manokwari, like a joking comment. And my response to that was Antarctica, the moon, Pluto, the multiverse. Like, you're throwing a label on it, like, because it's more marketable with the locality type. And another thing I think we should consider is why, as a hobby, do we associate locality type variation with phenotype variation?
Right.
But actually think about it. Like, these two animals look different. We assume they come from different places. Why?
Nobody knows.
Can anybody in the comments?
Andrew's saying your cat.
Andrew's saying cat.
No.
Maybe with some things. Yeah. No. I mean,
he's saying cap to this.
Oh, yeah. Well,
he's talking about He's talking about Indo 20. I was like, you better go over to Reptic and help him fucking sex the scrubs.
That's step one, man. You gotta help me sex all these. You have skin in the game, man. You need a male. Like, come get your male. It's here somewhere.
Whoa. Okay, relax. We all need males. Just relax. Not if I pull up first.
Hey, yeah, no. If you pull up first, you get first dibs on the male.
Oh my god, and I don't even remember talking about this out loud,
man.
But no, you do make a good point because I feel like that's why when we talk about scrubs are so untapped, nobody has this information yet.
Yeah, and like I know I was talking to Brandon Wheeler earlier today about Maruki scrubs. You know, after seeing a number of captive bred offspring, I personally think what we call a Maruki, what we call a Highland, or a Tanamera, or usually what we call a Highland. I am not convinced those are different animals. I am just convinced that naturally they are that variable. The Highland, the typical Highland is described by having those yellow bars near their ventral. Marukis get that too. I know definitively Marukis can have that look too, or what we call a Maruki. And at this point, I don't think anybody could convince me yet that they are different. That's why Indo 2022 is so important. Let's go to Oxabil. That would be really hard, and I hope my head doesn't end up on a stick. But let's just see what they look like. And what if we find scrubs in one place and find scrubs in another place and they look the exact same?
Yeah.
I'm not going to be convinced on this locality variation based on phenotype until someone can actually go there, show coordinate points where they collected 2 adults in the same place, brought them to the U.S., bred them, and their babies all looked like them. What if these 2 barnecks that produced all these babies, what if they came from the same locality? One looks like a Kofiau. A Kofiau barneck is like the coveted one. That's the one everyone wants. It's like, okay, well, that is to a T what you would describe as a true Kofiau. Well, it's clearly not. Like, it's very clearly not a Kofiau because it was captive bred. Like, what if you can find a Kofiau in Sarong?
Wow.
What if the difference in the locality types is not the phenotype? What if it's something about, they're like this, like the microbiology of the snake? What if it's genetic strength? What if it's longevity? What if it's the food they eat in the wild? What if it's their body count, like their body makeup? The
makeup,
the
features.
I'm trying to think of like comparative anatomy, what if their scale counts are different? What if their colors really are variable throughout everywhere they come from? But as reptile people, we just assume color different, locality different. I don't think that's necessarily the case everywhere. I think with some animals that probably is the truth. But why? Like why? Why do we assume that? Where does that come from? And maybe it did come from somewhere, and I don't know. But that just crossed my mind today of like, yeah, we really determine this locality thing based on what they look like when we really don't know if that's actually what's different between locality and locality.
Right. Now, let me ask you this, Stephen. With your projects, what you got going on, when you start selling your animals, whenever that time being, right? How are you going to like ID your animals? Will you be saying this locality, or are you just going to say blatantly it's a barneck scrub? Or how are you going to?
When you're talking barnecks, it will be captive bred barneck scrub python F1, F2, whatever it is. There will not be a locality type tied to that animal whatsoever. Aru scrubs, on the other hand, Moluccan scrubs, Halmahera scrubs, Biak scrubs, if we can ever get more. Yeah, of course, because those are distinctive. Like Tannenbar scrubs. As far as what we call them in the hobby, whether they actually come from there or not, I don't know, but this is the label we've given them. It works. This is what they are. It's pretty consistent. You can't tell me a Moluccan scrub is the same as a barneck, but you can tell me that a Sarong is the same as a Jayapura barneck. Yeah. That's my point. So with anything where locality type is pretty consistent, yeah, it'll be labeled that. But with something like a barneck, absolutely not. It will be a barneck scrub python, no more, no less, which is already a super high demand, probably pretty valuable animal that a lot of people want, myself included.
So let's eliminate you from the scrub equation just for now. How soon do you feel scrubs are going to become a lot more available? Like even if you weren't in the picture, like what would you say?
It's a tough one. There are not a lot of people who are actively breeding them.
Crazy.
You know, we have the Amethystina project, David Means and Chris Foley. They have projects. Brandon Wheeler's breeding them.
The Brandon Wheeler.
Nick Mutton is breeding them. Ryan Young may have some. Like there's a number of people who have some. But at this point, I don't know if anyone can really say they're having consistent success. We definitely can't say we're having consistent success.
Yeah, after this year, I'm already. Look, hold on. Yep. Sorry. Go ahead.
So, as far as available, like in numbers, I don't know. I really don't know. A few years maybe, but still hard to say because to my knowledge, there were 2 clutches of barneck scrub pythons produced in the U.S. last year. One was here. One was by David Means. And there was not a baby sold publicly out of either clutch. So, which, that was our choice to hold back every last one. It was his choice to do with his animals what he did. And, for anybody who gets like upset by that, it's like, well, what are you really going to do? They're not your animals. Like, no one's necessarily entitled to them because this is the reptile hobby. It's, they become available when they do, or buy imported ones and breed them yourself. Like, it's just this is where we are with scrub pythons right now. Is it's a budding market. People are trying to breed them, ourselves included. No one has it figured out yet. They're definitely not available captive bred in numbers at the moment. And it's going to be a waiting game. And they take a while to grow up too. You're looking at 5 to 6 years possibly for an adult female to become of size where she'll give you a healthy clutch. MJ's about to make some smart ass comment about, breeder at 3.5 and you'll be good. So
what's crazy, it's crazy. And I almost lost my mind because I am going to say something smart ass, but it wasn't about breeding at 3.5 years old. You're a dick. Why would you put me under the bus like that?
Timor guy.
Oh, whoa. Then we're talking Timor's hella, bro. Come on. Juan over at Indo will prove you wrong. And so will fucking Mike Lehman. Yep. They will both prove you wrong, bro. But
show me a 3-year-old scrub on eggs. I don't know if I've ever seen it.
I don't know. Fuck, that's your department, bro. I'm here to prove you wrong with the Timors. Timors is my department. You got to admit that. Oh, I got shit going.
Yeah.
I got you on the Timors. Now let's think about this real quick, okay? Because this is a situation I'm going to talk about public.
This smart ass comment.
No, it's not even smart ass. It's just me. No, I'm predicting the future right now, and I hope I'm right. The silver barneck female, the one I feel is gravid. Okay,
we'll see.
Tell me how a snake that comes in and eats once, okay, and then sheds 3 times in a span of 4 months. Explain that to me, please.
You got a big import python, and it, didn't transition back.
That many sheds, Steven?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't track sheds super closely.
I do.
It's interesting. The snake still seems healthy, and if it drops a clutch, cool. That'd be awesome. So,
and if it does, you send me MJ. No matter if it's a male or female, that's the bet.
I mean, as a trade for babies, sure, fuck it. I don't know.
Yeah, MJ's coming to the trap no matter what. It's gonna be expensive.
Oh, I
but
said
hey,
no matter what, if you hatch a clutch and we trade babies, that's what I said.
Come on, bro. I'm giving you. If I have to give you my whole white lip clutch, that's not even here yet.
No, I'm talking about your scrub clutch you're about to have.
Oh, duh, bro. Come on, dude. I'm in the Patrick game, bro. I'm not selling any of this shit. This is why I like Patrick Holmes so much. Patrick Holmes could get his hand on any fucking reptile he wants in the United States for the most part because he has shit that everybody wants. And he's Patrick Holmes. But I'm just saying, like, it's super player. I don't want, like, listen, I love my ball pythons. Here you go, buy my shit all day. But these damn fucking heartbreakers, these things that, like, you know, filled up my freezer, but I'm still shooting for it. Like, this is personal to me, Steven. Like I don't want to let these go to fucking somebody at a show. And no offense to anyone who goes to shows, but I will never sell at a show. I just can't. Like, I can't give away my production to a fucking kid who, you know, stole his mom's money, you know, and it's like, you know, yeah, here you go, bro, a couple thousand, you know, like, I can't. It's too personal to me, bro. Like, and even with some of the ball pythons, I can't just hand them over. You know what I mean? But it doesn't hurt as much. I'll tell you that.
No, I mean, ball pythons are a lot easier to take care of than almost every other reptile. But and that's what's important about these specialized markets is, you know, it draws people that know what they're doing, and even more importantly, it draws people that want to know what they're doing. The new people that, you know, they're like, hey, I see how you guys are doing it, and that's what I want to emulate. That's more important than somebody who already has experience. You know, more important than Andrew getting a scrub. No, I'm kidding.
Damn.
But what's important is, you know, new people who want to emulate the habits of those who are doing it right. So that's what I want to see more.
Well, I mean, I feel like there's so much to see that's yet to come. Like, I'm so excited, Steven. Like, this is, you know, me and Steven, you know, we could definitely give you guys a guest every week. But, dude, we got our own shit that's popping off that we also want to share with you guys ourselves. So that's why, like, you know, and, you know, shit's hot on both ends. We got a lot of shit to talk about. And you have two different ends of experience. I'm a lot newer to the hobby, but I have some experience. And then you have Steven, who's been doing it before he's even been done with fucking grade school. So, but honestly, Steven, your experiences do matter. You know, a lot of people who've been following you do love it when you finally speak up and talk about shit that you've experienced yourself. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, experience best teacher.
Yeah, it really is. So I just, you know, encourage everyone to just, you know, watch first, ask questions later. You know, you can learn a lot more by watching and listening than you can by talking. So, and then, you know, I say that and I'm here running my mouth on a podcast, so it's kind of ironic. But, you know, I love listening to people. That's why we do this, you know, is so we control the guests. We bring on the people that we want to hear from. These people that, like, here's somebody that I can learn from that's going to expand my base of knowledge, you know, that I don't know what they know. So let's pick their brain on what they know so I can absorb that. That's why we do this.
Yeah. I do want to say, and this is like I said, we'll bring this up one more time, but Dan did say he was going to do the show a lot. Like when Forrest was around, he was down. We never did it, but I reached out to him recently to see if he could do it, and he politely declined. So Dan will not be doing the show. Well, I think he's just trying to enjoy his life in Thailand, bro. You know what I mean? I don't think he just wants
I would be if I lived in Thailand.
Yeah, I don't blame
all the reptile drama. I'd be like, see you guys.
Yes, I was like, what the fuck? Sorry, my dogs were going shit. Anyways, but yeah, that's why I was like, you know, it was a bummer because, you know, while Dan was here, he was hella down. I even talked to him in person and shit, but now he's in Thailand, and now it's like, you know, it's a bummer because I'll tell you what, man, that guy right there, like I said, like we and Steven were talking about earlier, like talk about leading the fucking industry and importing good animals and, like, you know, selling good animals and all that shit. Like that was Dan, bro, all day, and he did it for a long time. Like a long time.
Yeah. So, and, you know, if you like hear his story, you know, go back in the old videos, like, you know, he paid his dues, and it wasn't easy coming up, but he had that goal of where he wanted to be. And, you know, I think that's kind of a good lesson for a lot of people is, you know, the easy path is not always the one that will bring you the best result. You know, to get where you need to be, you may have to go through some shit for a while. You know, you may have to really, you know, eat shit for a bit, not make as much money, you know, not have as much exposure, not, you know, not be where you want to be, but that experience is what's going to get you there. And, you know, back to the whole topic of the show, back to the patience, back to doing your research first, getting the enclosure ready. Like, you know, it may not be as glamorous as getting the animal from the jump, but in 5 years, you're probably be like, oh, wow, that was the best decision I ever made. was making sure that everything was dialed in before I decided to get my animal. Because now I have it still. And now, hey, maybe it's breeding. Maybe I just had a litter of emerald tree boas and I sold 8 babies and I made like 15 grand off of my $500 emerald that I bought.
Right.
However, if you want to look at it from that perspective, there's something to be said about that. So I think, if we can just, as a community, change how we view the economics of it, kind of double down on how we consider the ethics of it, and then, build the community instead of, build the community instead of try to be elitists and talk down on new people, build them up the way that you wish you were built up. We're ensuring ourselves a good future. So,
yeah, I think just not beating anyone down, period, is just the kind of mindset to go to. And, I think I can learn from that too. But, I think it's all who you keep your surroundings with. Like if you're with someone who obviously you feel like it just isn't on page with what you're trying to do, then don't associate yourself with them. Simple as that. I'm about somebody who's like kind of like what did you say? I'm sorry. With the E, entitledist, or what is it? What did you say?
Elitist.
Elitist. God damn it. Sorry, I'm pretty ripped. Elitist. So that kind of elitist mentality type thing, and you don't have to be involved in that kind of stuff, because anyone who tries to act like they're better than what they're doing, like the animals, is not somebody you should really be fucking with. Because
and if somebody has to go out and say how great they are they really that great if they have to prove it?
Or even talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, think about it like that. Like, man, if this guy has to go out and explain why he's so great at whatever he's doing, like, wouldn't it be obvious if he was, where he didn't have to say it? So, yeah.
All right, real quick, Kush. We I want to wrap up with this final topic because as touchy as it is, when we were talking about it earlier in the week, it hit home and it's reality. But what do you feel the impact it would have on the industry if they banned the import of animals, period? And I'm talking about for the private key. I'm not talking about for any kind of zoo. I'm talking about just for the private individual.
And there wouldn't be a bigger slap in the face of like, hey, wake the fuck up. We would lose most of the species that we see in captivity because they would just disappear. We see it in isolated incidents. One to me that was the most shocking in the last 10 years was the black throat monitor. You could go to any reptile show and get a black throat monitor for $200 to $300, and then I forgot the country, but the country that was exporting the most of them shut down for export. It wasn't a U.S. thing. It was this African country that, if anybody in the comments knows, please tell me. Andrew, if you're still watching, you probably know. And then we didn't see black throat monitors at all. And the number of people who are actually working with that species was freaking tiny. Where, maybe they will be breeding them and there may be captive bred available, but will those sell publicly? Maybe not, because these people have their list of 10, 20, 30, 40 people who really want these black throat monitors. And they just don't produce that many like with the scrub pythons right now, they don't produce that many. They're not a Burmese python. They're not a sulcata tortoise. Like, they're not going to have, 50 to 100 babies at a time. So 1 or 2 isn't going to save that species. So where, captive bred black throat monitors were selling for like $2,000, less than a few years after you could buy one at any show for $200 to $300. And everyone's like, oh man, where'd all the black throat monitors go? It's like, well, yeah, they were here and they've probably all died because no one kept them properly and the wrong people got their hands on them. Which is the unfortunate truth of it is, they were here. We had them. They died. Hypothetical you didn't take care of them properly. Tanzania.
Andrew, the hell.
Thank you. See, when I don't know something, I just go to Andrew, and he's like, idiot, Tanzania. So
I'm sure Andrew's just like, I guarantee he's watching this, just shaking his head, like, fucking
fuck
damn.
off, Andrew. He's the
Shut
elitist. He's the elitist.
Dude, I fucking I get so irritated on how much Andrew's right with you too, but fucking Andrew, man, it's like,
yeah, he'll tell you the truth like the way you don't want to hear it, and you're like, "Fuck you, bro. I know you're right."
you're like, I don't know. He'll be like, I don't know, bro. Like, and then he'll just boom tell you what he thinks it's gonna be, and then, dude, 9 out of half out of 10 times it's right.
You wake up the next day and you're like, "Fuck, Andrew's right. All right, god damn." But we could, back to the topic. We could experience what we experienced at Blackfield Monitors with like every species of reptile that we rely on the imports for. Another great example, a great example of an animal that was going up in demand when the supply stopped is the Moluccan scrub python, Somalia clastolepis, my favorite species of reptile. Nobody really knew what they were for the longest time or cared. And people started realizing, oh, hey, look at this. This is a gold snake with a purple tail. Holy crap, that's awesome. And then right around that time, they kind of stopped showing up. And they were, freaking Patrick will tell me stories about passing on 20 lots for $100 a piece or less, back in 2006. And I'm like, hey, fuck you.
Steven was born.
Like, I was in kindergarten. Fuck off.
He was born. No, he's kidding. I'm just kidding.
And then they're a little more popular, and they're $700 a piece imported. And then, hey, the next year now they're $1,200. Oh, what? But they all sold, and then we don't see them for a year and a half. And then one comes in, and it's like $2,500, and we're just like, holy fuck.
And there's nothing nobody could do about it.
Yeah, and there's nothing because that's the only one that came in the entire year. One snake that was at least sold publicly, and there was a zero quota on them in 2020. I do know that much. This one was more recent. So that's a perfect example right there of these snakes gaining in popularity, and for no fault of the U.S., we're relying on the Indonesian supply chain to give us our animals. Well, they just were like, no, we're done. For whatever reason, whether it was COVID related, whether, whatever it was, it doesn't matter because it's not, we can't control it. We can control what we breed though. That's what we can control. Similarly right now, with all this legislation, we can't control that, but we could control, proposing our own legislation. And that's, if that interests you, listen to last week's episode because that's what we talked about basically the whole time. We just got to take more control of what we can take control of, and what we can control is, all right, we have these animals. Let's actually breed them. Let's get to a point where if they cut off exports, we're okay. They'll still exist in captivity. Blue tree monitors is another example where the longest time it was they're going CITES 1, they're going CITES 1, they're going CITES 1. Implication, they're going CITES 1, they're not going to export anymore. At some point I felt like that was almost a marketing pitch to sell them for more money. But it seems like it, I'm pretty sure they did. And but there are people breeding them. Not a lot, but there are some. And will they still be in captivity? Yeah, they'll be few and far between, and they'll be pretty expensive. I wouldn't be surprised if a captive bred blue tree monitor is like a $2,500 animal now, or an import, may have been $1,000. But that's just a situation we've gotten ourselves into. And similarly, those $2,500 animals will probably still be $2,500 when they breed. You're buying in on the high end and you're selling on the high end. So from an economics perspective, it's not like you're getting screwed over. You're just now forced to buy that higher quality animal that will likely yield you higher quality results. sometimes with this, it's like, hey, we're showing you, we're showing you like this is what we should probably do. And at some point, we will be forced to do things the right way because there will be no other option. You're forced to buy captive bred this because, wild caught import that. It just doesn't exist anymore. Like, it's just not a thing. You'd have to go to the black market. You'd have to smuggle. You'd have to become a criminal to do it that way now. Where maybe a year ago you can go to a reptile show and buy it, but you lost your opportunity. We have collectively lost that privilege, and now we are suffering the consequences. So maybe it takes 10 years to collectively build back up to where we were. But maybe that's what has to happen. So preemptively, anybody out there, if there's a species that you're looking at and you're like, man, that's a really cool species, I'd like to keep that, then do it. Do your research, figure out what needs to be done, reach out to people on how to properly establish imports, go buy that species, do it right, advertise, market, and not mislead. Just be like, look at how cool this thing is. And then by the time you are selling your offspring, they'll be valuable just based on the demand you've created. Like, I feel like scrub pythons over the last 4 years or so have jumped up significantly in popularity because there's been a group of people who have been pushing them pretty heavy. And I feel like myself included. I'm not taking credit for this by any means, but I have a ton of people on Instagram reaching out and being like, hey, I didn't even know what these were. And now I'm hooked on them because you've been posting about them. Yep. And that's a great feeling because I know why these snakes are so great. So I'm showing people, and then they're drawing their own conclusions based on that. It's just, bringing light to a species that is incredible. The result of that will be these captive bred animals will not be cheap, and their prices will not they will not reflect the import prices. And it'll end up being like, all right, well, you either buy these or you buy the Walcots. Like, got to buy from the other guy who has them. And if there is another guy, they probably have them at the same price. And where no one's motivated enough to sell to undercut the other. This is not the ball python market yet, where 50 people don't have this same commodity, which is a reptile in this sense, where you don't like to think about it as a commodity, but they're treated like that sometimes, to where one will undercut the other just to sell it, just to not have to feed that mouth anymore, to pay for their feeders, to pay for their I want to make my booth back, I want to make my room back, I want to make the show a net positive. That's just, it doesn't exist yet with some of these rarer species, and it might never. There might never be a time where you can go to any of the handful of guys breeding basins and be like, hey, Socrates had it for this and Ed had it for this, can you do me better? They'd be like, well, go fuck yourself. This is my price. If you don't want to pay it, block. Like, you're wasting my time. That just may be where this is going, toward that the bargain hunter may not be what is common anymore. It may be you're paying a premium, but you're getting premium, away from bargain, save pennies, to maybe invest a little more and definitely get more in return.
Well, here's the thing with bargain hunters now, man. People are getting so involved, and it's getting bigger to where there's no need to bargain. There's nobody, like, if you don't want to pay this price, somebody else will immediately. Yeah. So, like, that's why unless it's a homie of yours and you build that relationship, then you could get a homie price, but that's up to you. That shit don't just get handed to you. You know what I mean? You gotta go earn that shit and build that relationship.
That's not a reptile show.
Right.
So,
anyways,
I think that everybody accepts this. Not everybody accepts this, but if this kind of thought process becomes more prevalent, I think it'll be a pretty quickly before, kind of the whole old mindset of find the cheapest, find the quickest, find the least expensive, find the easiest.
Oh yeah, you'll quickly see that that's just not the way. Like, you'll be like,
that'll be a thing of the past. Like, we were recently in the process of acquiring some animals, crazy, and I'm hearing the prices, and I know this seller is the best of the best. And I'm thinking to myself, am I getting screwed over? Like, is this guy kind of upcharging me because he may think I don't know any better, or because there really isn't a competing market? And then I thought to myself, like, in 4 years, 3 years, when these things are breeding size and maybe we're getting eggs, like, am I going to be like, I'm glad I saved $1,500 on the group back, then by buying lower quality animals or going, comparison shopping? Or am I going to be like, I'm glad I spent that extra money because now it shows in the adults and it shows in their offspring. That to me was like, part of the reason why we ended up getting those animals was, I'm like, it's going to suck in the short term because I feel like I just spent a lot of money, because I did, but these animals are going to reflect what I spent on them for years to come. Instead of, look at these. They're not as good as the ones I was looking at, but hey, I saved some money, And if you're not in a position to where you can spend that money, maybe you shouldn't be buying those animals at that time. Work up to where that's achievable for you. And it'll pay off, and it'll pay dividends for years to come.
Longevity.
And if you're not in it for longevity, just get out, because you're not in it for the right reason.
And if you have scrubs and you're not in this for longevity, hit up Steven right away.
We have enough scrubs. We have plenty of scrubs.
Oh my God, Steven, with the biggest scrub collection, privately scrub collection probably the biggest in the world, I would think. Maybe, we don't know, unless somebody wants to speak up.
Unless there's some fusion with 500 scrub pythons in a crazy ass facility that I don't know of.
If there's somebody out there who thinks they should be wearing the King of Scrub crown, let them come to me or Steven. And let's talk about it. But till then, King of Scrubs in the building. Amazing episode, bro. This was great. Thank you so much. This was awesome. I think we got a good enough a lot of information out there as far as, obviously, like I said, man, at the end of the day, the biggest question I always have when it comes to a new keeper of, emeralds
scrubs
is a substrate,
Question.
Wait, can you hear me? I'm talking. What just happened?
Yeah, no, I just a comment I didn't want to miss. Yeah, we have a group of Wamena scrubs, probably breeding next year. So, anyway, what were we saying before I interrupted?
I don't know, Steven. You just pulled a Desiree on me. I was talking, you just fucking boom to start talking. That just doesn't work, right? That just with my ADD, I feel like I'm talking to a reflective listener. To myself. Does that make sense?
My bad.
I'm hungry. No, but this was good. No, good shit. This was awesome. Any final thoughts, Steven? Anything you want to say? Any wrap up statements?
What are your thoughts on all of this, MJ?
I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, if anyone isn't taking in consideration anything you have to say or what I had to say, then it's simply just you aren't here to listen or try to get better, because we're not here speaking to say, hey, what's right or wrong. Everything that we're both speaking come from experience. We're just speaking from what we've learned and what we continue to learn.
It's an opinion, it's up for interpretation. It's not like this is the gospel truth. I'm not opposed to somebody thinking something differently, and I'm not opposed to being wrong either. So this is just what I feel, and this is our podcast, and I'm deciding to speak my mind on it. So, it is what it is. I feel like we bring up good points, but then that's also up to interpretation. So,
yep. And if you don't like it, do something about it, bitch. Don't forget to support USARK. Mm-hmm. Very, very important, very crucial. Want to say anything about USARK real quick, Steven? Got anything on top of your head about USARK?
Nothing more than the usual. What we talk about on these type of episodes, and it's just me and MJ talking about issues of the hobby or whatnot. A lot of this ties right back into the mission of USARK and why it's so important to support them. They're the lobbying body that is our voice for keeping our rights, keeping the rights of of the keeper, of the future keeper, of us as, at-home conservationists, essentially, to, keep our involvement with these animals, keep doing well for, keep doing right by them. Oh man. And, we're going dark mode here. We're up against some pretty solid opposition, but we have the truth on our side, which unfortunately is not the public image of what we do, but it's the truth of what we do. Is, we always have the animal's best interest in mind. At least the ones of us who are doing it right. This is not everybody, but not everybody in any walk of life is doing it well. So what we're trying to do, and what USARK is trying to do, is bring everybody together, try to put differences aside, because those differences are nowhere near as important as this fight that is it's ongoing. It has been for a while, and it's pretty highlighted right now. It doesn't matter if you're, a big snake person, a tegu, or an iguana person, or if you're, ball pythons, leopard geckos, rhacodactylus geckos. Like this, this is all our collective fight. And, everyone may not see eye to eye, but we all see eye to eye on we want to keep our animals, and we're going to fight for the conviction that we are doing right by the animals, and we're not the ones that need to be governed. So, donate if you can to USARK. If you can't, spread the word, because visibility is what we need at this point. USARK needs us as a hobby. We need, and those of us who are doing it the right way. That's what we need is this visibility. So, shout it from the freaking rooftops. Spread the word, even if it's to a few people. If you don't think you have a big following, it doesn't matter. Affecting one person is all that really matters, because that person could affect 5, and then the effect just snowballs from there. So, so I got to say about that in short form. Please go support USARK. Whatever you can helps. I appreciate it.
And make sure you let them know that the Team ERP sent you. We would mean, it would mean a lot to us, because, we're here repping USARK every episode, and you should be doing the same as much as you can. And make sure, if you are doing anything tomorrow night, we got my boy Blake Wilson, aka Big Old 2-inch, in the building for a trap talk with MJ. Link in the description below. Not only should you subscribe to the ERP channel, but you should subscribe to the Trap channel, because, Steven also drops in on that randomly. You never know when Steven pops up, but when he does, it's great. But then, more importantly, like I said, Blake Wilson will be in the house, man. And this guy is so dialed in and has experience with almost every freaking species of reptiles you could think of. Keeps really cool mammals, has really cool fucking kids that flip you off, and his wife is really awesome for putting up with Blake. I can already tell she has a lot in common with my wife, so can't wait. Make sure you guys tune in. And again, thank you, Stephen Cush. Thank you to the team over at Cold Blooded Cafe. Thank you, Desiree. We miss you. We love you. And we'll see you next week, man. We got a cool guest next week, so make sure you get ready for that. Subscribe to the channel. Don't sleeping.
Don't ramble anymore.
Yep. And by the way, good looking on the likes. Thanks for being not a robot. Okay? That's what I'm talking about. Don't cost nothing to like. We appreciate you. And we'll see you next week. We out. Peace.